Hey ladies, looks like perfect timing.
Hello.
Hey there, have a seat.
How was lunchtime, Julie?
It was good. Really good.
So what was she having for lunch?
She had scrambled eggs and some toast.
That's an interesting lunch.
It is. The rest of the kids were having peanut butter and jelly, and being only 14 months, it's a little early to have peanut butter. So scrambled eggs and toast are one of her favorites. She hasn't had it in a few days, and that's what she got.
And I guess that's really part of this whole transition, baby food to solid food transition. So how's that gone as far as baby foods, solid foods?
It's good. She is completely transitioned to solid foods now. About 12 months old, she was doing really well with table food, and so she was showing a preference for that, and we just stopped with baby food at about that point.
Now, Julie, stage 4 of baby food is recommended 12 to 15 months. Is there a problem going longer with baby food? Is there something in baby food that a baby needs, or can they all just go right to table food?
The goal is to get them onto table food, so as soon as they are ready to do that, they can.
Good. Good.
Yeah, and I noticed she was using her fingers.
She was.
So those pieces obviously had to have been small enough. How do you kind of gauge about how small to make, like, well, she had, what was it, toast and
scrambled
eggs. Of course, that's soft enough, but toast is a little bit more crunchy. So how do you know?
It does. I just try to do a small enough bite that if she were to swallow that without mashing it up any further, she wouldn't choke on it, because she doesn't have her molars yet to really grind up the food.
Well, that's a good thing to know, because otherwise, at this age, they really can't.
Well, how do you make the transition though? Let's say the meal included something you are going to feed her. So as we talked about in babyhood transitions, there's a time when you're saying, here's your finger food, and then there's this time when you come and say, no, don't use your hands, because mom's going to feed you. How will you help? How do you guide moms in telling them to make that separation between the finger foods and the confusion that could potentially come with, well, mommy's going to feed you now?
I would keep them separate as far as not having both on the tray at the same time. So let's say we were having oatmeal and toast for breakfast. I would give her probably the oatmeal first, and I would feed it to her, and she would know to have her hands on the tray or in her lap or wherever I had directed her to. And then I would move to the toast and say, now you may eat, and direct her to that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, while we're still talking about food, we'll get into a little bit of behavior issues in the high chair, but what about vitamins? Is that something that's necessary to give little ones at this age?
It really isn't, unless it's something your pediatrician feels is necessary. One of mine was tested at about 15 months and was found to be slightly anemic, so they did prescribe vitamins for just a few months.
And so that's something really that's kind of covered anyway in their well baby checks at about a year to see where they're at. So that's a helpful thing. And what about, again, snacks? Does Anne ever have snacks at this point?
She does. Right now, she is able to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the family. But to make it till 6 or 6:30, when Rich gets home for dinner, she gets a pretty good snack when she wakes up from her second nap of the day, which is 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay, now you say a pretty good snack. Would it be almost equivalent to a meal or not?
No, it really wouldn't. I would give her maybe a handful of Cheerios or a few crackers or some fruit.
And something to drink as well.
Yeah, and I just monitor to make sure she's still eating a good dinner. And I have given her too many snacks, and then all of a sudden she doesn't want dinner. So oops.
Now, but Anna's walking. So are there rules to giving snacks? I mean, can she just go where she wants to go, or do you have a special place for her?
She is always in the high chair or some sort of booster seat so that she isn't walking around dribbling cracker crumbs, because I don't have time to keep vacuuming.
That's right.
Right. And, we talk about begin as you mean to go, and mealtime is traditionally done at a table or at some sort of confined area. So you're setting a good pattern, and plus the fact the rest of you eat at the table, so you want her to become part of your family. So this is what we all do as the young family.
I set her up in the high chair usually when I'm doing some preliminary dinner prep, and so it works real well that she's in the kitchen with me.
Now, hon, we know that nutritionally, children need, a certain amount of food, but once they reach 12 to 18 months, it's not uncommon that food is not all going to come in equal portions. In other words, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So what are you finding with Anna? Does she have one meal that's greater than another where she really seems hungry, and then maybe another meal that she's less hungry? And do you ever wonder about that?
Yes, she does. And with her, it's not predictable. I've had some of my children where lunch was their meal, and they'd eat a tiny breakfast, eat me out of house and home for lunch, and then barely a dinner. Anna will do that. It's not a predictable meal, but there are some times where she'll just eat a lot, and then for a few meals just not eat so much.
Yeah.
So I tend to look at how much and what they eat over like a 3-day period to make sure they're getting enough. If I just focus on one day or even one meal, it really...
Julie, you're seeing this though from a mom, from a 5-child perspective. What advice then would you give that first-time mom who's watching this child who's just doesn't seem like she's eating enough, even though she's having that one big meal? What would you tell her?
I would say don't focus so much on just one meal of the day. Look at the whole context of 24 hours, but even bigger of, I'd say, 3 days of what they're getting.
And speaking of meals and preparation and size of bites, etc., about how much do you give
Portions.
a portion size for Anna?
I just start off with a few bites of each food. For example, the eggs, I'll just start off with maybe enough for 3 or 4 bites, the toast 3 or 4 bites. And if she eats that, we're working on the sign language, and she says please or more, then I'll give her a more. But I don't start off with a huge plate full of food, just little bits.
And that's probably a very helpful guideline even for brand new parents, because I think we tend to put everything on their plate, and then if they don't eat everything we give them every mealtime, then that's when we as particularly moms, well, and maybe dads as well, begin to stress, oh, are they eating enough? Are they getting enough to eat? Could I just go back to one thing, as you said, you put a little bit on her plate, and then because she is learning to sign, because she's just coming into that now, so she's probably not characterized 100% of the time with that. You encourage her to say please, but if she doesn't, do you still go ahead and give her the food without her saying please? If you know she isn't finished eating and she needs to eat some more.
She wants more, I'll just take her hand and I'll try to prompt her and say please.
Yes.
And if not, then I'll take her hand and then good girl, and then give her
some more.
the more food. And eventually she will get it.
Right.
When they get older, you'll just see them over here going crazy.
Exactly, but it's important for our parents to remember that the early stages when they're just beginning to catch on of what these signs are going to yield, they don't always do it every time. And if we're expecting them to say please before we give them another bite, we could be here for hours waiting for that next bite to occur.
Or if I were to just give her the food, say please, she doesn't do it, give her the food, I'm reinforcing, you don't really have to
say it. So by at least taking their hand and encouraging it, that's all.
Just a couple more questions regarding food. Is there a types of foods that Anna should not be receiving because of her age at this point?
There is. For example, the peanut butter can cause a lot of allergies, and then just any food that she could really choke on. Carrots, candy, popcorn.
Anything maybe the skin, like from grapes on? Or
right, yeah, grapes usually are still off limits at this young age, and it's more because of the skin that's on them. Same with like hot dogs with skin, and there's usually a lot of preservatives and stuff in hot dogs. Even the natural ones, they still have a skin on them, so you need to be careful. And we'll have that listed in the book. One other thing, getting back to the idea of behavior and manners, I know she's young, so don't have great expectations at this point, but I noticed she was helping you clear the tray.
She was, and that's something we're working on right now, because when she is done with her food, she wants a clean plate, so she is doing this. So we're working on when she starts to do that I'll say no, you say all done, and I'll just take her hands and pull them together, or just say no. And then I'll take the plate away, actually.
That's good, because that was one of our questions.
Yes, it was. It was. And the other thing, though, the challenge I think that parents run into at this phase that we want you to answer is this whole picky eater thing. Is the picky eater really the end product of genetic code, or is it the end product of parenting, or maybe a combination? And what about food preferences? So help us with understanding this.
I think picky eaters come about when we offer them a whole smorgasbord of food, and we just keep going back to the pantry, the refrigerator, and oh, they don't like that, let's try this. And then they can be picky because they know better things are coming if I just hold out and wait.
And of course, one of your words, excuse me, is persevere.
Yes.
So
Yes.
persevere with foods that she may not seem to like early on.
I do. I just keep offering over and over. For example, tomatoes. In our family, Rich and I love tomatoes. We wanted all of our kids to eat them. So each kid would get one bite at a meal. And for a while, they had nothing to do it. And eventually, they would take it. And it was okay, but that one bite was plenty, Mom. And now the older ones all love tomatoes. So Anna will get there.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to see more. And check out the growingfamilies.life website to find more resources and to get connected.